Hello, everybody, and welcome to EnergyPrint's first webinar of our Summer Essentials series. I really appreciate everybody's time to join us here today. As EnergyPrint is your valued utility data analytics partner, we're always striving to help you guys make your jobs easier and more productive around using and utilizing EnergyPrint's utility insights. So our webinar today is going to focus on that key first step about getting a building onto the utility dashboard. So today you're going to have the pleasure of hearing from myself. My name is Matt Arneson. I direct our client services here at EnergyPrint, and the bulk of our content today is going to be driven by one of your client relationship managers, Deb Oxnam. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to walk you guys through some updates you guys have likely seen from EnergyPrint regarding some changes coming from Energy Star, as well as some tips, tricks, and best practices in starting a building on your utility dashboard. We are also going to leave some time here at the end of this webinar for some questions and answers. So please, as we go through our presentation here today, and you have questions that pop up, please ask us those as we go along. And in order to do that, you can easily submit your questions via that webinar panel, the pop-up box for today's webinar. A common question that comes up on nearly every webinar that we run, so I wanted to just address it here first, is the fact that after today's webinar, everybody who has registered and has attended the webinar is going to receive a recording of this. So if you're not in a place to be able to jot down notes on a lot of what we'll be covering, all these best practices, just know that you will also be getting a recording of this so you can play it back at your own leisure. So before we dive into the bulk of what we want to cover here today, I do have some news I'd like to start with about some upcoming changes that are happening to Energy Star. So over this past spring and summer, EnergyPrint has been actively communicating with all of you that there's going to be some scoring changes coming to the Energy Star program. Essentially what's happening is the data set that Energy Star uses as its baseline is going to be updating from 2003 building information all the way up to 2013 building information. So that's going to affect nearly everybody's Energy Star scores. So since this baseline data is going to be 10 years newer, and there are so many efficiencies that have gone on in buildings over that time, Energy Star estimates that scores of every building are going to drop anywhere from 1 to 16 points, August 26th. So it's a key date to keep in mind that your Energy Star scores are going to change, and likely they're going to drop as of August 26th. So there are a couple of pieces of information that we want to make sure that you guys are aware of, that you have taken note of and make some actions on. So first and foremost, again, August 26th is that date. After that date, all Energy Star scores in both Energy Star as well as the Energy Utility Dashboard are going to be updated, reflecting the new scores. These scores are going to change both going forward, as well as all of your historical scores are going to change as well. So because all of your historical scores are going to change, we would like to ask you to spend some time here over the next month, log into the utility dashboard and download your utility or your Energy Star score histories from the Energy Star tab. It's fairly simple. You just go to your Energy Star tab on each property, go to that Energy Star history trend line at the bottom, and print or save that export. That way you'll have record of what your Energy Star score looked like before you get the changeover on it. Also, if you do have a building that has a score over 75 in Energy Star, and you haven't already applied for or had your building certified as Energy Star certified for 2018, we strongly recommend you do that before August 26th, before they make that change. As a matter of fact, Energy Star has recommended that you get your applications for identification into them prior than July 26th to ensure that those applications will go through using the current scores. If you do submit your application after July 26th or after August 26th, your certification will be reflected with your new score. And so if your building goes from a 75 to a 73, you'll no longer be eligible to have certification until you reach a new level of 75 using the new scores. And lastly, if you guys have any questions or if you need help certifying your buildings in Energy Star, please know that EnergyPrint can help you. Gladly help work your way through that application process, make sure that you have everything in order to get a successful certification prior to August 26th. So please reach out to Energy Star, your client relationship manager, or your primary contact here at EnergyPrint. We'll help you make sure that you get your building certified as Energy Star for 2018 and help share that success before this changeover on August 26th. So with that, I'm going to turn our webinar over to Deb Oxnam. She's one of our client relationship managers, and she's going to walk you guys through how to best get a building set up onto the utility dashboard.
Thanks, Matt, and hello, everyone. Our goal for this webinar is to walk you through our onboarding process, provide background information about the process steps and requirements, and discuss different strategies to make the process less stressful. But before we get started, I'd like to go over a few key words. When you hear the word onboarding, EnergyPrint is referring to the process of adding a building to our system. And we've created what we call an onboarding packet, which describes the building information we require to start the onboarding process. The term data gap refers to missing data within the time period we are tracking. And a data gap can happen during the onboarding process or even after we've gone live with a building and are collecting regular monthly utility bills. If you hear the term LOA, this is referring to a letter of authorization. And finally, if you hear the term CRM, that's your client relationship manager, and each of you have one, either Matt, Peter, Adam, or myself. And if you're unsure of who your CRM is, please let us know and we'll make sure to introduce you. So now that we're clear on a few key words, let's talk about adding a building to EnergyPrint. We collect and aggregate utility bill data and deliver it through our utility dashboard, Insights Architect reports, or our data delivery service. Our mindset is to ask as little of you and your property contacts as possible, but we do need some key pieces of information to establish our relationships with the utility companies. We have designed the onboarding packets and process to collect all necessary information for us to successfully add a building to our system. So to start, we need 3 simple pieces of information. And first, we need to know about the building you'd like to add. To provide an onboarding worksheet, and you can fill out the property name, address, gross square footage, tax ID, and year built, along with other pieces of information. Second, we need to know what you would like us to track, and we get that information from recent utility bills. Third, we need permission to request that information from the utility companies, and we get that by having signed authorization. We'll provide you with a template for signed authorization, and we'll also let you know if your utility company requires a specific form. If at any time you question what form to use, please reach out to your CRM. And to provide that data to us, you can send that via email, physical mail, even fax, or you can use our online onboarding tracker. This tracker was designed to provide you a central location to house your onboarding packet information while you are collecting it, and to provide you visualization into the onboarding process as we complete it. Here on the first page, you can start a new property or view the status of properties you have already submitted. When you add a property, you'll start with the property information page. And this is going to look very similar to the worksheet that we provide you because it is the same information. If you don't have all of the property information at this time, you can enter what you have and save for finishing later, or you can save and continue, which will take you to the next page for utility information. This is where you'll add the utility companies that we're working with, and if it's not listed, you can check the box next to unlisted utility company and add the name manually. If you have online information for us, the user login, for example, please put that information here, as we'll use that to request utility data for your historical as well as ongoing. And you can add multiple utility companies as well by using the Add Another Utility Account feature at the lower right corner of the page. Again, you can either save and finish later at this point or save and continue. And when you do continue, you'll land on the Documents page. As you can see, under Utility Account Authorizations, there are several forms listed, and these will appear based on the utility information that you put in on the previous page. Here, download these forms and have them in hand when you meet with your customers so that they can sign them for you. And then you can upload the documents here at the same page in the Upload Document section. This is where you'll also add your bill copies and then save and continue to review your information. Here, you can review all of the property information that you've submitted, and you can edit by choosing the edit word next to each section. And once you're satisfied with the information, you can submit the property. Once you submit the property, that's when EnergyPrint can see in our side of the application that you've added a building. And at this point, we'll approve the building if the packet is complete, and we'll push it through our onboarding process. If the packet is not complete, however, we'll have to reject the building, but we will reach out to you directly to let you know what else is needed and to come up with a plan to get those items. You can use this page to track the progress of buildings that you submitted. As you can see in the lower part, under Estimated Completion, we insert a date automatically once you submit the building, and it's generally 30 days from when you submitted it. And you can track your buildings all the way through to the final audit phase. So now that we've reviewed how to start a building in our system, let's talk about the rest of the process. After you've submitted your onboarding packet, we'll review it, and if it's complete, within 30 days, we'll complete the onboarding process. EnergyPrint uses that information to collect 24 months of historical bill data from actual physical bills or a historical file from the utility company. This is where having the recent bill copies and letter of authorization is key, because we communicate directly with the utility companies to request this information. In parallel, we also arrange for an ongoing method of utility bill delivery to us so that we may keep your buildings up to date after we complete the onboarding process. Requesting and receiving utility information does take the bulk of our onboarding process time, anywhere from 14 to 20 days. So having that complete information is vital for us to maintain our timeline. We spend the rest of that time entering and validating the data, and we complete a final audit of that data as well as the visualization. Next, after the process is complete, your CRM will contact you to notify you of the building completion. And the next steps to review the building with you will depend on how you consume the data. For example, a utility dashboard, Insights Architect, or a data feed. Regardless of how you consume that data, you will have 24 months of historical data, ongoing data utility collection, as well as Energy Star score. So now that we've reviewed how to add a building to EnergyPrint, let's talk about onboarding tips to try to make your job a little bit easier. At EnergyPrint, we talk about this process every day, and we are very used to the terminology and flow of information. We understand, however, that this is not everyday conversation for you or your property contacts, and so we've documented your feedback and our observations to come up with common roadblocks that could delay or potentially derail the onboarding process. Just getting started can be really tough because your contact lacks an understanding of the process or why utility data is needed. They're going to wonder who EnergyPrint is, and we have seen that initial conversations become complicated because you end up talking more about the process in EnergyPrint than you do about the purpose of the conversation, which is to collect utility data. Another roadblock for us is receiving incomplete building information. It will slow us down if we don't have the tax ID or if we don't understand the history of the utility account. We'll also slow down if we receive incomplete utility bills or no utility bills at all. Just having an account number doesn't work when you're talking with a utility company. Partial bill copies or old bill copies don't work either. Our favorite way to collect utility bill information is through online access. It streamlines our process. But many utility companies only allow one utility login per account, and that is usually already used by the property. Lastly, roadblocks kill momentum in any project that you're working on. And when we have incomplete information, we usually have to reach back out to you or your property contacts for more information. We have to repeat communication without progress, and that will cause a loss of momentum. And the longer the process drags out, the less responsive your contacts will be. And more importantly, if your contacts become less engaged in the collection of this information, they're going to become less excited about the visualization of their utility data. So how do we fix this? To prevent a communication roadblock, we recommend starting with a simple conversation. When getting started, the property contact will ask you why you need utility data, and this often is where the onboarding process can get convoluted. Sometimes people are fearful of tracking utility data because they're afraid it will expose inefficiencies and waste. So if your property contact doesn't know how their building is performing, they may be worried about looking bad. Build their confidence by asking them to start with simple things like benchmarking and tracking any no-cost or low-cost improvements. Think ahead about how you will use utility data to help them tell the story of improved building performance and use the data to make them look good. We recommend simple talking points such as, utility data will be part of the overall picture of your building, or we want to track your building performance to see if there are opportunities for savings and to see if past projects have paid off. If applicable, assist your property contacts in determining the best path to collect the information and together determine the best contacts to do so. Another tip, ahead of your conversation, learn who the utility companies are in EnergyPrint to see if there is a specific authorization form needed. That way, you can bring the authorization form with you and leave with a signature. If you're not able to get that utility information ahead of time, that's okay. Just let your property contact know that you will confirm the appropriate authorization form and return for additional signatures if applicable. Our second tip, to avoid the common roadblocks of incomplete building information, we recommend to ask questions related to utility history and current accounts. You can use questions such as, have any utility accounts closed in the last 2 years? Have you used the same utility company for the past 2 years? Does anyone hold online access to the utility account? Many times your direct contact may not have this information, therefore we do suggest that you involve accounting in your initial conversation. Third, if you are running into roadblocks and need our assistance, connect your CRM and your contacts by an introductory email or phone call. We can work directly with your contacts to review the information needed and field any questions about the process. Also keep in mind that an introduction is very helpful because it lets your contacts know who we are, what we do, and that it's okay to talk to us about their utility data. We have found that involving the CRM early in the onboarding process does lead to a faster onboarding process on average, taking 1/3 of the time to collect onboarding packet information compared to the CRM not being involved. And lastly, we recommend that you set the stage for your conversation ahead of time and let your contacts know that the goal of the conversation will be to leave with building information, bill copies, and LOA signatures, or at least to leave with a commitment to a deadline as to when you'll receive that information. So as you know, we've created these processes and requirements based on what utility companies require from us. And we know that your property contacts are going to push back on you and question why you need these pieces of information. So we've collected frequently asked questions that we'd like to review with you now, along with responses that you can provide. The first and most popular question we get is, why do you need my tax ID? Simply, utility companies require the set up online access because it serves as an additional validation point to verify that our request is legitimate and that the LOA is valid. Why do I need to share my utility login? And utility companies will tend to provide user login per utility account, and if the property already holds that, EnergyPrint can't set that up. If the property is unwilling to share that with us, we understand their concern, and we will certainly reach out to the utility companies and manually request information. But if we're not able to do that without online access, then we will return to you and your contacts to determine the best next steps. And many times that is that we will arrange to have a property contact that we can reach out to directly to continue to collect utility bill information regularly. Next, do you really need bill copies to onboard a building? Can I just give you my account number? The utility company requires information from the most recent bill in order for us to successfully request information. They require the service address, for example, the exact account number format, and sometimes the amount of the last bill. Finally, why do I need to know if there have been any utility changes in the last 2 years? Doesn't the LOA give EnergyPrint permission to find out? And in short, that answer is no. The utility company will provide information for the accounts that we ask about, but they never volunteer information. So once you've onboarded a building with EnergyPrint, that will not be the last time that you hear from us. A data gap is created with changes, and we'll see that in the process if we don't understand the complete history. But we'll also see that as we're collecting utility bill information moving forward, if any of the account information changes, such as if the utility company changes their account number format, or if your property changes their utility provider. We see this most often with changes to suppliers. We will follow up with you throughout the life cycle of your buildings in EnergyPrint, including when data stops flowing due to changes like these. And remember, depending on the type of change, we may need a new authorization or bill copy to gain access and continue tracking that utility information. So during this webinar, we've reviewed our onboarding process and the information needed to start a building in that process. Remember, that's bill copies, building information, and letters of authorization. We listed some of the common roadblocks that we have seen in the past and discussed ways to prevent them. And we've reviewed common questions you can expect to be asked by your properties along the way. Lastly, we discussed the data gap. But before we go, we wanted to show you what you get after we complete the onboarding process. And that is, of course, our utility dashboard using property trend lines, snapshots, and reports to visualize 2 years of data. Your CRM will reach out to you to let you know when your building is ready and set up some time with you to review initial insights and how to use the dashboard in general. If you don't use our dashboard, your CRM will reach out to you when your building is complete and let you know when to expect data delivery. And as a reminder, we will continue to collect new utility bill information during the life cycle of the property and alert you to account changes that may require your attention. And everyone, that concludes my portion of the webinar. But before I go, I would like to remind you that our next webinar is July 25th at 11 a.m. Central, and we will review the utility dashboard in more detail and highlight some tips and tricks to guide you. Look for an email invite for our next webinar, and we've also just sent a link via the chat window if you'd like to register today. And with that, I would like to thank you all for attending and hand you back over to Matt for Q&A.
Earl, I appreciate it, Deb. There was a lot of great content to help walk through how to successfully and efficiently get a building started on the utility dashboard. We've had a few questions come in as we've gone through this presentation. I want to address a few of them here. The first is actually addressed early on my conversation about the Energy Star scores. The question is that will the Energy Star score change, the Energy Star score changes impact my data or the ratings or rankings that are in the utility dashboard? So that's a great question because it signifies the difference between Energy Star and EnergyPrint's utility dashboard. EnergyPrint has obviously been collecting your utility information ongoing as it's generated by the utility providers. Our window backwards is somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. And so your rankings, your metrics, your insights you're generating from the utility dashboard are not going to change. As a matter of fact, they have been updated and you are using as close to real-time utility data as possible. The difference is obviously Energy Star uses a baseline of information that goes back now up to 5 years. And so that's going to be the biggest change. But you know, the insights you've generated from the utility dashboard are much more up to date and active in terms of what your utility data tells you about your buildings. Another question that has come in: if my client relationship manager onboards my buildings or assists me in that onboarding, can I see the onboarding status in that onboarding tracker, or can I make updates using that data tracker? The great news is yes, you can do all of that. Even if EnergyPrint assists you with that onboarding process, you'll always be able to see the status and the progress those buildings are making through that onboarding process. That time period takes us roughly 30 days to complete, but you'll always be able to track that time using that onboarding tracker. So if you have started a building, a new building onto the utility dashboard, highly recommend you click on that onboarding tab, see where you're looking, where that building lies in the process of onboarding, and that estimated completion date. Another question: how often do data gaps happen? Is this a big problem? Data gaps do occur for buildings, as Deb mentioned. They occur because something has changed, either at the building or at the utility company. Less than 10% of the buildings that we track experience some sort of change that we need to document or make a change to. But because we are so invested in making sure that we have up-to-date, validated data coming from your utility providers, it's a big deal for us if data stops flowing. And so we do try to address in our changes that we need to document from a utility company as quickly as possible. So that's why if you do hear from us after your building is live on the utility dashboard, it might be because there has been an account change or a meter change or a customer change on your bill. And we just need to be able to document that to make sure that we're always providing you guys with the most up-to-date data. So it looks like I'm coming up to the bottom part of the hour. I really appreciate everybody's time for joining us on today's webinar. As Deb mentioned, we do have a second webinar coming up in this series. We'll be talking about tips and tricks of using the dashboard. So once you have a building on the dashboard, you'll be able to learn more about what are the insights you can generate using this utility dashboard. How can you use them to further make decisions about the energy efficiency of each of your buildings. So I greatly recommend you guys join us on our next webinar. Appreciate everybody's time here today. We're going to be